Okay, so the first one is we're looking at sentence improvement. Okay, the highlighted phrases of course broke down. Let's understand the context, right? So I'm guessing most of these, I'm going through the questions for sentence improvement, and all of it revolves around only one particular concept, which is, can somebody tell me what that concept is? There is a pattern, right, in all the 5 questions. Yeah, phrasal verbs, right? So let's look at our context. While we were discussing the situation, Nancy broke down to give her opinion. So it's a discussion. Somebody's intervening and sharing their opinion or view, right? Broke down as a phrasal verb means, like, maybe you heard a near relative or a close family member, something adverse happened to them, it could be an accident or whatever, and hearing that news, you broke down, right? So that, in that context, broke down as a phrasal verb applies. But here we're looking at a phrasal verb that brings in the meaning of, somebody who kind of intervened in the middle of the discussion and said, hey, you know what, I also have something to say on this topic. So while we were discussing the situation, Nancy, it can't be broke into, right? Broke into is to enter, like a thief breaking into a house to steal whatever, right? So we understand that one phrasal verb has different meanings in different contexts, but the predominant meaning of these phrasal verbs, as we see and as I've explained it, we know the only option that will fit the context is option A, which most of you got right. Yeah, so broke in is what we are looking at, meaning somebody who kind of intervened in the middle of the discussion and said and wanted to put their point across. Yeah, barge in is a completely different word, that has nothing to do with broke, but barge in also means just forcibly entering a place, right? To barging in, you can barge into a room, like you're in a hurry, right, and you're barging inside. So that's also a phrasal verb, but definitely not applicable in this context at all, right? We're talking about physical movement there. When I say barge in, I'm talking about a physical movement, barging into the room. Somebody barged into the room, or somebody barged into the meeting, right? Maybe they were like, they found out that there was some secret meeting happening without their knowledge, and they are supposed to be a part of the meeting. They found that out and they were angry, so they barged into the room, trying to ask questions like, how dare you conduct the meeting without me? I'm just giving you a scenario. Okay, let's move on. We need to have a meeting this week in order to iron on the distribution problems. So here the highlighted phrase obviously is iron on. My options are iron off, iron out, iron upon, iron in, right? And I'm looking at it, and what is the meaning or context meaning? So there is some problems that they have to work out, that they have to solve basically. So I'm looking at a phrasal verb which gives me that meaning, right? And which phrasal verb is that? That will be iron out. So to iron out something means basically, just imagine, visualize, right? When you use an iron to kind of remove all the creases on your clothes, right? To make it smooth, to make it even. So just visualize that and you can retain the same meaning. So if there's a problem, it's a difficult situation which needs to be solved. So something that can smoothen that problem, something that can take away all the ups and all the downs of that particular situation, right? To remove, to fix, yes. To sort out, yes. So iron out will be our answer. Let's move on. When the sun goes down, it moves down in the sky until it cannot be seen anymore. Go below, goes away, goes back, goes off. But goes down is the phrasal verb in the phrase, in the context. Do we need to change it? Is there something that can be replaced given the context? Or do you think it makes sense as it is? Yeah, it makes sense as it is, right? To go down is a direct meaning. You don't have to make any changes in the context, and it's explaining after the comma. The context says it moves down in the sky until it cannot be seen anymore. There is no better phrasal verb to express that meaning other than goes down, which is already there in the context, so no improvement required. So if you're looking at, I did, but let's look at this one especially, right? To go back, to go below is also, I wouldn't say it's a phrasal verb as such, okay? You can go below the table to find something, okay? Or you can also go under the table to find something. It's pretty much the same meaning, right? To go away. So if you stop thinking about something negative, eventually that thought will go away. Meaning it will no longer retain in your mind. Goes back. To go back. So goes back can have different meanings again, right? So if I can say to go back in time, as in you're thinking about how your childhood was, or how a particular, you're trying to recall a particular incident or a situation. To go back in time, to recollect what happened previously. That's another meaning, right? To go off. The alarm goes off every day at 7 o'clock for me, right? So I set the alarm at a particular time and it goes off at that time. Are you following? So all of that is kind of, I would rather say the sun going down, right, rather than goes below. Because goes below what? Like there is no logical thing that I can place, right? It is going below what, the clouds? Can I say that? No, it doesn't make logical sense. Can I say the sun is going below the horizontal line of some tree? No, I cannot say that, right? It doesn't make sense. But if I say go down, rises up, goes down. That's the most logical construction that I can come up with, right? So even if there was goes below in my option, I would still not choose that, because goes down is what makes logical sense to me. Are you following? Yeah? Okay. Let's look at the next one. The manager warned his young players not to get carried off by the emotion of the occasion. So obviously my options are, highlighted phrase is carried off. My options are carried back, carried down, carried upon, carried away. So the manager warned his young players not to get dashed by the emotion. So your clue is obviously emotion, right? So people always tend to get carried away by their emotions, not carried off, right? So most of you are coming back and giving me the right answer, but in terms of meanings for the other options with carry, what do you think? What do you think are the other options? So let's quickly look at it, right? I have carry off is what is there in the context. So I can use carry off like literally, taking some sort of a piece of furniture, right? So I can say, what, can you please arrange a van to carry off all the, all the furniture, because I'm shifting, I'm moving house, right? That's the meaning of carry off here. I'm literally using it for a physical commodity, okay? The next option says carried back. Carry back. I'm not too sure if that is a phrasal verb by itself, right? I haven't heard a phrasal verb like that, carry back. If you have, let me know. Carry down similarly, right? Again, I don't think. Carried upon, other phrasal verbs that I can come out with in terms of carry, you can get carried away. Carried away we know, right? Carried away is like something that is not letting you stay focused or stay alert. You're letting your emotions take over. So another entity has control over your mind and your thoughts. You're not able to control your thoughts and mind, right? That's when people get carried away. So I can get carried away. Let's say I am a ardent fan of Vijay or SRK or whoever it is, right? And I go for a movie with my friends and I get carried away when my star comes on screen and I'm jumping and I'm clapping and I'm whistling. So I get carried away. I let my emotions take over, control over me, and I can't help myself, right? I can't control myself. That's when people get carried away. But there are other phrasal verbs that are with carry. Let me quickly write them down. So you can carry out something. Yeah. So carry out has different meanings again, a meaning of fulfill, like you can carry out a plan, you can carry out your life ambition. Yeah, so that's one meaning. Carry over is another phrasal verb with carry, right? So I'm not able to finish a particular task within this week, so I'm going to carry over the task to next week, right? So carry over means you're transferring to a later point of time. Yeah. So carry out, carry over. What are the other ones? Carry on. Yeah, that's another phrasal verb. To carry on means to proceed or continue doing what you're doing, right? So I'll say, you know what, I may not be available for a couple of sessions in the future, but that does not mean the sessions will stop. The sessions will continue to carry on, or the sessions will carry on. Continue to carry on is redundant because carry on itself means continue. So the sessions will carry on, which means it will proceed as planned, as scheduled, it will carry on. Yeah. So it's, what I'm trying to say is, when you're learning a particular context, when you're learning a specific phrasal verb, try to distinguish, you know, if the given phrasal verbs, some of the phrasal verbs that are given in the options are not used as much, or I don't even know if they are phrasal verbs, but the ones that I listed, carry out, carry over, carry on, all these are phrasal verbs. So when you're learning phrasal verbs, learn other ways in which that particular verb appears as a phrasal verb, right? That's the way to learn phrasal verbs. I've shared this in the video library as well. If you haven't gone through the phrasal verbs thing, it's available. Please check that out. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at the next one. What the problem comes for too is, will the consumer be willing to pay more for a higher quality product? What the problem comes for too is, so as I'm reading the context, I know whatever is there in the context is just not making logical sense or grammatical sense, right? Let's look at our options. Option says comes for as, comes in at, comes down to, comes by to. So here basically we're looking almost like a, and just to let you know, you know, these phrasal verbs, idioms and phrases are all part of collocations. Why am I saying that? Is because we use these words and phrases repeatedly, right? So it's part and parcel of hearing them used again. So what is the context saying? The context saying what the problem, basically if I have to add my own phrase instead of comes for to, forgetting the options that are there, I would say what the problem boils down to is, so basically what they're saying is, hey, the objective or the end result or what we need to focus is, will the consumer be willing to pay more for a higher quality product, right? So I need a phrasal verb that brings that meaning, as in what's the focus, what's the objective, what do we narrow down to, right? And in all my own phrases, I have said boils down to, narrow down to. And the option that is there, which is giving the same meaning, is option C, comes down to, and not comes in at. What the problem comes in at? No, incorrect, right? So for those of you who come back and said option B, it's not grammatically correct, and we don't use that phrase at all. Comes in at? No, right? But comes down to means boils down to. Yeah, what is the objective? What is the focus? Right? So well done, Khan, and those of you who got all 5 correct, because phrasal verbs are not actually a very difficult concept. If you understand them, if you know how to break it down and approach phrasal verbs, it's one of the most easiest concepts, and it's a very good concept for you to know, right? Not only for this particular question type, sentence improvement, it will come handy even in close passage, it will come handy even in spot the error. So this particular concept, phrasal verb, it's good to know.